Megan Jansen here with Employee Wellness Solutions Network. I'm really excited today to talk to a very knowledgeable lady, Sarah Becker. Sarah is a benefits advisor who recently relaunched her consulting work with Beryl and Company. She looks after employers and workplaces and helping them build that trusted culture of caring. And I'm really excited to pick her brain, so to speak, with respect to what she's passionate about, some mental health, getting into some post-COVID discussion as well. So Sarah, welcome. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your busy day for me.
No worries, Megan. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, you've been in this business for a couple of decades, really. And there was a little bit of a gap between where you were and where you are now. Can you share a little bit about what that gap was all about, what you're up to now?
Absolutely happy to do so. So I always laugh at the expression, the shoemaker's children never have shoes, because I think a little bit of my circumstances serves as a cautionary tale to organizations and individuals alike in terms of taking care of their well-being. And the short answer, I guess, is that I suffered a little bit of burnout. Here I was going around presenting this idea that a company's success is predicated on putting their people first versus their profits first. And in conjunction with, speaking to clients and potential clients around that and putting on seminars, I was simultaneously telling employees during education sessions and in publications that I had written that we owe it to ourselves as individuals to practice that self-care, so that when we do go through challenging times at work, we're able to have the resiliency and the reserves in place to be able to navigate those. And in my case, there were, a little bit of blips in both of those areas that essentially led to a bit of burnout. And so through some discovery with a physician, we talked around the fact that, maybe I might need to take some time off and take a restock. And in fact, I very quickly discovered that probably the best solution would be to resign and take a little bit more time than that. And so the game plan, of course, was to take maybe a month or two. And in that North American culture idea that I had of success, which is work, 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 I thought, a month or two will be enough. And it just turned out to be 5 months of a lot of self-reflection and a lot of spending time with friends, family, and building back up those relationships and taking the time to really thoroughly evaluate what it was I wanted for my future and find the appropriate home to do that in. And I believe I did that with Beryl and Company. So very excited to be back.
Congratulations on that. I mean, it's so self-reflective of recognizing that you needed to do that and take more stock, as you say, of your self-care. That's so, so important. And I think coming through the lens of this pandemic time and living through this COVID chaos, it probably is bringing up a lot of those similar feelings for those of us who are working from home and worries about uncertainties and fear and anxiety. And so a lot of those symptoms that you experience coming from your personal experience with this, I mean, it's what people are feeling.
Absolutely. And I have a lot of empathy for the fact that, so much change is happening. And as a species, I mean, we're not very good at dealing with change. And so when we add so much of that into the experience, it's quite interesting. And I've shared with other people that, to me, the second wave of COVID is in fact going to be the mental health crisis piece to this. And when we think about mental health, and I steal kind of my ideas here from the Surveil partners, is the idea that mental health is in fact based on, the 5 kind of pillars of what well-being is. And it's our physical, our emotional, our social, our financial, and our career well-being. And we're right now in a period of time where all 5 of those categories are in a state of flux. We don't know whether we will have a job tomorrow. We don't know what our financial situation will be. We're not able to socially connect with our friends and our peers, and emotionally that creates a lot of fear. And I know that, like many of my friends, we might be having an extra glass of wine or having an extra couple cookies and maybe not having quite the physical routine that we're used to. And so really we're in quite a quagmire right now.
Everything is in flux, and that's really where I think this discussion is so important when it comes to the well-being of employees. And you referenced a really great book really about thriving culture at work. And those 5 pillars, as you mentioned, are really in limbo right now for a lot of people. And it is struggling as we start to reopen and re-enter into the workplace. There's going to be a lot of those feelings and symptoms and worries from living through this and then kind of coming back to the workplace and now what?
Yeah.
So I think you're right to say that there's kind of even though there might be a second wave here, there's also sort of the after pandemic wave I think we're also going to be experiencing.
No, it's certainly true, and that a lot of the webinars that I'm sitting in and a lot of the conversations I'm having with organizations right now is, how do we prepare for having people come back with that heightened sense of anxiety? And I think it comes back to making sure that you're a culture that is empathetic and is open to the understanding that you may have to put accommodations in place, even a little bit past what the reopening phase may be for those people with valid concerns around, the exposure that they may have, whether it's immune compromised or their age or just general anxiety around the idea of coming back. So organizations will be mindful of that.
So when you started in the early 2000s, how have you found this industry really evolve when it comes to employee well-being, workplace wellness?
I would say that it's almost night and day, in that when we first started kind of in this space, we would have well-being presenters come and speak to us. And I can remember a colleague of mine at the time utilizing the phrase that, it's kind of like warm apple pie. Makes you feel good, but it really doesn't do much. And that was kind of the sentiment, that we would talk to employers and clients, and they would sit there and go, this makes sense, but we're not going to invest the time. We're not going to invest the energy. And then maybe a decade later, kind of in the 2010, 2012, we started to see employers take a little bit more notice and start to put in more programs and solutions. And it was still at that time very physical focused. The very progressive ones might have put in an employee assistance plan, thinking that they were cutting edge and, we're taking care of employees' emotional well-being as well. But the last years, the work that I've seen done and the interest that I've seen from organizations in this space of really stepping up their well-being programming and not programming in terms of, well, let's just do some biometric screening and we'll maybe put in an EAP and then we'll stop there. They're continuing the conversation even in the idea of a culture shift in making sure that leaders are getting trained, psychological safety, making sure that they're encouraging employees and supporting employees through difficult times and more of that empathy piece. So the well-being space has really opened up in the last 5 years. And I think with what COVID has done is now just amplified that. And so we're starting to see the government come out with some amazing resources and partnerships. We've got WellCan, we've got them.
So Sarah, with COVID here, and we're starting to, see some end to getting back to, no, hold on. Sarah, seeing some of the evolutionary behaviors of workplaces over the last 2 decades, as you shared, now that COVID is here and living through that, and as people do start to get back to some semblance of work, how do you think that this industry of employee wellness and workplace wellness will evolve after this? I think there's going to be some major changes. What do you think?
I'm in full agreement. I've seen a few headlines that say welcome to 2030, because they're essentially saying that COVID has accelerated any changes in terms of workplace well-being, or even in the digital experience and the benefit space, and in the idea of we have to do a better job of proactively taking care of the well-being of our employees and clients alike. So I think that we will see some, I always look for the silver lining, but I think that there will be some positive that comes out of this, insofar as employers are recognizing that mental health needs to be addressed. They're recognizing that they have to put in some initiatives, whether it's digital health promotion, whether it's in resiliency training and making sure that they are more responsive to employees and the challenges and the anxieties they may face. I think that we're going to see some really positive things happen, in that we're going to see that acceleration of proactive care and the digital supports to have that happen. So it will be interesting to see, how much of that sticks, I was listening to a seminar put on yesterday by TELUS, in which they had indicated that there was about a 25 utilization of few organizations that had virtual medical care solutions, which at the time was only about 5% of the population. And right now, we're seeing an acceleration not only in the number of employers offering it, but 90% utilization. And they predict that after this, we're still probably going to be at about 50%. So what that means is, from my perspective, with this virtual medical care, all of a sudden, I'll use my own example in that, sometimes I would put off going to go and see the doctor because I didn't have time, or they didn't have time for a couple of weeks, and by that point, I self-worked through the issue. With this virtual care, you're now able to access a doctor within 5 minutes. And so all of a sudden, more in advance of waiting till last minute, you might be proactively going out and taking health treatments, both of the physical nature and the emotional nature. And so I'm quite excited by some of the evolution that happen in that space.
I agree. I think the prevention, proactive side of employee wellness is critical, and but being responsive, as you say, it's really important. And being aware of what employees are, really anybody and everybody's dealing with, going back to the workplace. And still so much that I think this industry has room to grow. And I love the resilience side of this. We will get through this, and we have to ensure that the right supports and tools, resources are available, because definitely people need it. Absolutely. Sarah, as we tie up our time today, do you have any final thoughts? I could talk to you all day about this, but any final thoughts to sort of tie it all together?
I think that, the organizations that understand that their whole employee shows up to work each and every day, and that whatever they can do to help support that employee from all ends of their health spectrum, from the continuum of that, proactive care to reactive care, the more infrastructure they can put in place, the better prepared they're going to be, and the better they're going to equip their employees to show up to be their best, their best self every single day. And so those are going to be the organizations who on the other side of this are going to come out positively thriving, and not to sound too cheesy, but our world will be a better place for it, because if you're a happy individual, you just show up in a much different light than when you're unhappy, unfortunately.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your insights. Really great speaking to you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.